Well, a proposal to allow a new pesticide to be used on berries is worrying one environment group. Pesticide Action Australia is saying the decision by Australia's chemical regulator, the APVMA, represents a big increase in the amount of the pesticide being applied to berries. David Claughton from the Country Hour has been looking into this and is with me now. So, David, what's changing?
Well, they want to introduce a new pesticide. It's an active ingredient they call isocycloserum, and this is something that hasn't been used globally a great deal. So in 2021, they made the first approvals, and now they're looking at whether they can introduce it into berries, having approved it for other uses. So that includes blueberries. We've talked a lot about blueberries in recent years because there's been an explosion in interest around those, but also blackberries, raspberries, currants, strawberries. So quite a few things that you'd buy in the supermarket and in quite high levels these days. So the question is, what is the safe limit? And that's what they're looking at.
Okay, so the environment group is saying that this pesticide would be 500 times higher than what's currently approved. Is that right?
So I suspect here that they have approved initially a very low level of use just to be safe. And so now they're looking at it in more detail and wondering, what could it be used, how could it be used with particular circumstances? And so they've given different levels of what they call maximum residue levels for all of these different kinds of products. And yes, you can say that's like from a 0.001 to a 0.5 milligrams, that will be a 500 times increase. But the APVMA, the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, says that's pretty misleading.
Okay.
We've been very cautious about this. We've looked at the worst case scenario. So if someone ate a lot of berries and they ate them every day for a week or whatever it happens to be, even in that case, this will still be hundreds or maybe thousands of times lower than a level that could cause people harm.
Okay. Is this, though, people might be listening to this and they might have cause for concern here. Is this a forever chemical like PFAS? What do we know about this chemical?
I think the jury's still out on that. There are certainly some efforts in the United States to challenge this particular chemical. Let's assume that it can stay in the environment like some PFAS chemicals. The APVMA has looked at that. They've considered that as a possibility, and it can build up. So they've also made a recommendation around this use and how it might impact on the environment. So they're kind of looking at all things there. I think this is a problem for just about every chemical that we use, and many of the other things that we use, like plastics, they stick around in the environment for a really long time. So probably the best thing to consider here is if you've got children particularly who are more sensitive to these kinds of things and have a longer lifespan and all this stuff is going to build up, is to kind of, I suppose, wash what you're going to use. And so that's the debate around the table, around the restaurant. We were chatting outside about this, families and parents eating out are saying, well, what are we going to do about the berry thing?
Yeah.
Well, the advice, generally speaking, is to wash it and wash it just before you use it. Okay. Now, I'm really, when it comes to berries, if you wash them and put them back in the fridge, they're going to go off pretty fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, just wash them in that moment that you're about to consume them. Dry them off. I usually use a paper towel.
Yeah.
And I eat berries as much as the next person.
Yeah. Wish I'd spoken to you before my breakfast this morning, Dave. So what's next with all of this?
Well, the APVMA has been criticised over the years because it has taken an inordinate amount of time to make decisions about things. But they are crunching through stuff much faster than they used to. But a process like this, I'm guessing, might take 6 months to 2 years. So there's no rush about this. There's no need to kind of rethink, what are we doing right now? They took the latest consumption advice about berries into consideration on this topic. So at this stage, you can consider this a pretty cautious approach to potentially a new chemical in the food chain, and there's nothing to worry about with this particular new product yet.
Okay.